Good evening and welcome to the February version of Your Backyard Association, brought to you by the Coweta County Master Gardeners Extension Volunteers. I'm Alan Summerlin, and hosting with me tonight is Deborah Williams. The Backyard Association presents a monthly gardening program the second Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. with the exception of December. All programs are free and are presented just for you.
Master Gardener programs in Georgia operate under the leadership and guidance of the University of Georgia through Coweta Extension offices for issues regarding gardening, water quality, agribusiness, family wellness, and life skills. The Coweta County Extension can help, and the information is here on the slide.
On February the 27th at 10 a.m., we'll be presenting a very timely program on pruning. It will be via Zoom and is titled Pruning Tips for Homeowners Workshop. We will be covering the why to prune, when to prune, and how to prune. Details and information can be found on the Coweta County Extension website, Coweta or MGEV Facebook page, and also there'll be a link in your chat box. Again, that's Saturday, February the 27th at 10 a.m.
I'm happy to announce that we will be having a big spring fundraiser again this year. It's our Soil 3 Big Yellow Bag sale that begins on March 16th through March 30th. When you order, you'll receive a $20 discount on each Big Yellow Bag, and Coweta Master Gardener Extension volunteers will receive $15 for each bag you buy. It's a very good product, and it will help fund our programs this year. Order online using the code MGCoweta3. Also, I'm happy to announce that we're going to have our annual spring plant sale this year. We'll have a different format, and the information will be coming soon.
The McGuffey Nature Center, along with its 6 hiking trails, are located in the Coweta County Fairground Complex. Master gardeners spend many hours each month planting native plants and removing non-native plants and doing various trail improvements. To help with the expenses involved, we have a way that you can help. That is by purchasing a brick paver to be in honor or memory of someone. We have a special garden. It's called the Memory Garden, which is on the paved purple trail. It's a nice picnic area, and it's a great way to honor a child or maybe a grandchild or a memory of a loved one. The deadline is May the 28th for this year. So please respond to the County Extension Office if you would like to do this.
On Tuesday, March the 9th at 7 p.m., the Backyard Association welcomes Coweta's own teaching farmer, Mike Cunningham. Mike, who owns and operates Country Gardens Farm, will present a Zoom program about organic vegetable gardening. Mike loves to pass along his vast gardening knowledge, and this presentation is just in time to prepare for spring planting. It's one you don't want to miss.
We are excited tonight to have with us Walter Reeves, also known as the Georgia Gardener. He'll be bringing our February backyard program. Walter Reeves grew up on a farm in rural Fayette County, where he learned to garden from his parents and his grandmother. Walter's first real job was with the University of Georgia Extension, where he spent 29 very rewarding years. Walter has done gardening and radio shows for over 30 years. He also writes a weekly column of garden questions and answers for the Thursday Living section of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He has just completed his 20th year in that role. Walter hosted Gardening in Georgia and Your Southern Garden, broadcast by Georgia Public TV for over 10 years. In his spare time, like he would have some, he also manages the walterreeves.com website, which contains over 10,000 articles and questions and answers to garden questions. He also edits and publishes the Georgia Gardener, a bi-weekly email newsletter. You can follow him on Facebook or Twitter. Walter has authored 4 wonderful gardening books. My favorite is Month by Month Gardening in Georgia. Walter is an honorary master gardener and an enthusiastic promoter of environmentally responsible landscaping. Please welcome a Georgia gardener's best friend, Walter Reeves.
Lots of new growth, and you can see on the edge all these leaves, these gray leaves up here at the top of this crepe myrtle. They're covered in powdery mildew, and powdery mildew keeps the crepe myrtle from blooming. It also makes more aphids live in the crepe myrtle, and it's generally a bad thing because it makes much shade inside of the tree. If you prune crepe myrtle so that you take away all the twigs that are your thumb size or maybe a little finger size and smaller, you'll have a very nice looking tree form, beautiful crepe myrtle. You do the one right here. I love the way that looks. It's like tree form. It's very, very symmetrical. It arches up a little bit and comes over. I love the way it looks there. There's other people did with the tree form. But this is the way a crepe myrtle should look. Tree formed. And this one, it was never pruned. It's in front of the master gardener or the extension office in Hall County. I love this crepe myrtle. The trunk is gorgeous. Needs a little cleaning out in the middle maybe. But I really think this crepe myrtle is graceful. It looks lovely, and it was never pruned. You can tell it's never pruned there. And I'm so glad the extension service didn't do anything with it, just let it be. Tree. This is called when a serial killer comes along. The serial killer came along and pruned these crepe myrtles down to the nubs. Who knows whatever happened to these, but that was not a great looking pruning job there. River birches are one that I just happened to see in my neighborhood had been murdered terribly. Somebody else thought that they could murder a tree and it come back nicely. The river birch around the corner from me, it has been taken out. It died, frankly. So they took it out. But I just thought that was an interesting way of pruning a crepe myrtle, just like pruning a river birch, just like you prune a crepe myrtle. Ugly. And this poor lady sent me this picture of her river birch. She got it pruned it, told her it would come back. He said, it's been 2 years. Do you think it's going to come back? I don't think so. Here's one that got pruned, or Japanese maple, I guess, put in front of a house, a whack-back job. And this is a poor cherry tree. Oh, my heart weeps for trees like this that are pruned this severely. This also is a bad idea. Probably die afterward. I caught it when I was passing by Dunwoody. This guy told his landscape crew, he said, every time I mow, the limbs on my cherry tree bat me in the face. They hit me in the forehead. Can you do something about that? So the landscape crew said, sure we can. And so they cut every limb off of his cherry tree. Now, of course, he can mow just fine. Easy to mow, but the cherry tree died. Just want to spank him. Friend Lyle Collins saw this Japanese maple in front of somebody's house, and he went back 2 years later to see what was going on, what had happened to it. See, the first picture on the left is where they just pruned it and had a little bit of new growth on it. The picture on the right, during the summertime, it turned green, I think. But you can see how it recovered, but it doesn't just as ugly, just ugly, ugly, ugly. It's so good that you'll have that pruning class, by the way. The pruning class will tell you a lot of ways of avoiding this kind of pruning so your trees will look a lot better as a result. Well, here we go. Bradford pears, on the other hand, are best pruned with a shovel, I think. That's the best tool that I can think of to prune a Bradford pear. This was started about 4 feet, or stopped 4 feet high. should have gone all the way to the ground. I'm not a fan of Bradford pear, and you know why. I have a picture of it, I'll show you why. But then I do feel sorry for this one. You can see here, again, somebody came in severely pruned this Bradford pear, and a serial killer on the loose again. Serial killers on Bradford pears, which is not such a bad thing. Here the Bradford pears in front of the Baptist church around the corner from me too. They took every limb off that tree. Ended up not being very healthy after that either. This is what you get. This is the dense growth you get on a Bradford pear that gets pruned badly. And this is, again, something that attracts diseases and insects. It's just not a healthy thing for a tree to prune that severely. And, you know, I had to have this picture in there. We've all had this experience of seeing your car or somebody else's car that's been crushed by a Bradford pear limb. It happens. Their limbs are so closely spaced on the trunk. They have a weak spot that included bark, causes them to fail or to fall out of the tree. Now, another faux pas that I see sometimes is people that don't read their label closely and don't realize how big something's going to be when they're planting it. Confederate jasmine is a great vine. I love Confederate jasmine. It smells great, evergreen, beautiful vine, little white flowers on it. But if you put it on a small arbor like this one, you got to look out. You're going to have trouble. If you plant a Japanese maple, a tree Japanese maple in front of your bay windows, it is going to get big. It wants to be 20 feet tall. There's no way to stop it. It's going to be that way. The best way to treat it then is to simply take it up and put something else there. This is a wonderful couple of pictures I have here. Somebody who moved into this house, and they looked at the corner of the house and said, honey, we need something tall over the left-hand side. We need a tall plant over there. Nice to have something on the right-hand side of our garage, a little shade there on the side of the carport, or the garage, I mean. And so let's go get a Leland cypress. How about a Leland cypress? They're so cute. They're only $10, and they just look so nice in the nursery. Leland cypress would be a good idea. Well, after only 5 years, this is what they had. Leland cypress, way too big. They barely see out of some of the windows. They barely get the car into the carport. When you don't read the label. I'm sure this is planted by a guy who said, don't worry, honey, I can prune it back. Well, sure, you can prune it back. Now it's all the way up to the gables of the house. By the door, he has the limbs that have to be pruned off. I think this is ugly, ugly, ugly. I've been asked if it's, can you prune a Leland cypress? You can prune a Leland cypress successfully. How tall is your ladder? Well, this guy decided 16 feet is what he wanted. They got to 25, I think, before he decided that it was just too tall. And you can see that what happened. He went around and cut the tops out. But I see in the middle, there's a good bit of brown foliage in here. And that brown foliage is going to eventually lead to a disease that will kill these little cypress around his pool. But that's how he pruned his, wow, my goodness heavens. Look at this. This is the guy that did not prune his Leland cypress ever, had free in front of his house, and he just let them grow. He came in through the back. That's what happened. He goes into the back of the house, and he didn't care about what happened in the front. And that's what full-grown Leland cypress looks like. Again, attend the pruning class next month, or February, the next month of pruning class. You'll learn a lot better ways to prune. There are, I don't mean to bash men, but I'll tell you, there are a lot of times where I think it's testosterone poisons that caused that. Think of the guy who said, honey, it's cold, it's January, the Bermuda grass is brown, but I see those little green weeds out there. I'm going to go out and spray some Roundup on those little weeds and kill them. And so when May comes and the Bermuda grass greens up, you can see what has gone on. All the places that he sprayed the weeds been killed because the Bermuda grass was not dormant in January. Bermuda grass in Georgia rarely, it was dormant enough to spray Roundup on it. You see where this guy wandered around the yard, killing the weeds, killing the Bermuda grass too. Here's another one. You can see exactly where the weed was, where he concentrated his spray there and killed the weeds and killed the grass as well. And this is what Roundup damage on a tomato looks like. It's very characteristic. Yellow, white could be in the center of the leaves, the little leaf there. Show you another one. This is what it looks like. Roundup damage on tomatoes, real characteristic. And it can travel, gosh, 50 to 100 feet. You spray it on a windy day near your tomatoes. It can get on the tomatoes, and that's what it looked like. If you spray it near your azaleas, that's what Roundup damage on azaleas looks like. Little balls of leaves. Tomato, azalea, Roundup damage. And if you put weed killer on your lawn or breezy day too, and have tomatoes nearby, tomatoes are very sensitive, very sensitive. Weed killers have 2,4-D in them, and you can see what the fumes from the 2,4-D did to this tomato. You know, lobby, twirl around, and they really, really do not look good at all. This is what 2,4-D damage looks like on beans. Again, if you're a breezy day, you get 2,4-D or weed killer onto your broadleaf weed killer onto your vegetables, it can really do a number on them. Ooh! This is not spray. This is where someone failed to read the label. The label said, do not apply on the root zone under a tree. This guy did. This is what happened. This is why the label says, do not put this herbicide underneath the tree. It's absorbed by the roots, and it'll cause the tree leaves to curl up like this. Who knows what this is? Alan does. Deborah does. Jerry does. Karen, I know you do, Karen. This is a ladybug larva. So ladybugs come from this. This little orange and black alligator does not look like a ladybug, but it changes into a pupa on the left and an adult on the right. So if you see these little alligators on your foliage, on your plants, in the vegetable garden particularly, don't try to control them. They're your friend, they're your buddies. They're doing a good job for you. In spring, every year it's usually April, I think, what are these called, ground bees? When the ground bees come, it looks like earthworm holes in the ground. This is where bees that live underground and they hatch out in the spring and pollinate all the things that need to be pollinated in March and April. If you see these in your lawn, leave them alone, let the bees do their work. It'll disappear in just 4 weeks or so. And they are really, really beneficial insects. Ground bees, solitary bees, make a little hut, little home in the ground, and then where the work is done, the pollen has been collected, and it all goes away. You don't think of these wasps being your friend. I did not. We had an outhouse that we used, and the wasps made nests underneath the roof of the outhouse, and I did not think they were my friend then. You don't think about hornets as being your friend either, but these are beneficial insects, hornets and yellow jackets both. And wasps do a great job controlling aphids and caterpillars. You would have a lot more aphids and caterpillars in your garden, in your landscape, if you did not have these, what we call carnivorous insects, because that's what they do. Even these hornets will kill yellow jackets. I have a video of a hornet sitting in front of a yellow jacket nest in the ground, and he was chewing, he was biting the heads off every yellow jacket that came out of the ground. Unbelievable. So hornets and wasps, beneficial insects. Leave them alone if you can. The one on the right is up on the bathroom window. This lady here, I think I just leave it alone. It's not going to hurt anybody to be up there trying to hide. These are aphids. You'll see these aphids. This is an iris leaf. And if you look at it very carefully, at the top of the aphid shell, you see sort of a little slit in the top of it. And that little slit that's up there is where a syrphid fly and parasitic wasp also has come in and parasitized that aphid. And it hatched out to that little slit at the top of the aphid shell. So look at these little brown, they look like sesame seeds to me, little sesame seeds on your irises. Once the iris, let's see, aphids have come in. And also look at these little slug-like things. Those are syrphid fly larvae. They're also beneficial insects. But you wouldn't know that unless you knew that this is a beneficial insect in larval form. Look at that caterpillar. My neighbor Chrissy found it in the backyard, as big as a hot dog. A caterpillar as big as a hot dog. Look at those horns, those orange horns. It must be poisonous, it must be venomous. Why is she doing this? It's not poisonous at all. This is a hickory hornworm. They don't have any damage to people. They feed big up trees to the ground. Chrissy got it. came and brought it to me. Hickory hornworm. One of the things that I tried to do when I was on the radio is always remind people that when it's the right time to do things is the right time to control things. This is one of the things that I think we need to think of right now, scale insects. When scale insects are on your prey myrtles or on your euonymus, euonymus scale here. If you have a euonymus, you should always look and check and make sure you don't have these scale insects on the leaves, because they will cause the euonymus to defoliate and die. And the right time to control them is now, when the crawlers are present and when you can spray horticultural oil or something on them to kill them. This is T-scale on a camellia. This is the damage on the top of the camellia leaf. Again, the best thing to use, I think, is petroleum oil or horticultural oil. And you can use it anytime you want to, anytime during the year. It'll suffocate the scale, suffocate the eggs, suffocate all the crawlers that are around as well. Oil spray is a great cure for scale insects. You need to go look at your azaleas and look at if they have these dots below the leaves. Those white dots are lacebug damage places. On the backside of the leaf, there'll be black spots where they poop on the backside of the leaf. And the right time to apply a systemic insecticide is after they bloom. Because if you apply during the bloom time, you can get some of the insecticide in the flowers. You don't want to hurt the beneficial pollinators. Systemic insecticide down after they bloom, and you'll protect the pollinators. Just about any time you see this black sooty mold on leaves, that's what it's an indication that you have a sucking insect in the tree or the shrub. This is white flies on gardenia or something. These white flies are sucking the sap, and the sap honeydew comes out, and the sooty mold then grows on top of the honeydew. And systemic granules is the best way, I think, to control the sucking insects. That's a Bayer tree shrub, one-eyed systemic granules. And I think both of those do a great job on lacebug. Always remember that when you have problems above ground, a lot of times they can be below ground where the situation is advantageous. Arborvitae are famous for drying up and dying if you don't keep them watered properly during the 6 months after they're planted. This lady's arborvitae, she had 20 of them, all looked like this, and all of them died. And it was a terrible waste of money for her. But she just didn't know how to water them. She watered them with a sprinkler, and the water the root ball. As it did go to the root ball, the arborvitae didn't have any water, arborvitae died. This was a lady I planted in my backyard. Didn't do anything, didn't grow barely any growth on it after 2 years. So what I did was dig it up and look and see what was going on. Roots have been kinked around in the soil. You see what happened there, and that's why it didn't do so well.
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Somebody needs to mute their microphone there. The other thing I see a lot of is girdling roots at the base of a tree. If you can see a root that goes around the base of a tree, that root can press against the sap of the tree in the trunk and cause the tree not to do very well on that side, on one side of the tree. Look for girdling roots. When you plant plants, what I do is I wash all the dirt off of most of the trees and shrubs that I plant. Or I wash as much of the dirt off of it as I can so I can find where the roots are going round and round and round. And if I do find a root that's going round and round, I try to untangle it, of course. If I can't untangle it, I'll clip it with my clippers, get it out and plant that. Something we don't talk about a lot, but it is a great thing to do. Plants off, start with spread the roots out, let them be running around and around and around and girdling the trunk. That's what the roots need to do, go in all directions around the tree, one in every direction around the tree. One of the faux pas, one of the failures I see a lot is leaving stubs on the tree. When you leave a stub, you're going to have great problems. It's going to lead to this. You can see that the tree is trying its best. It tries its best to grow over the stub over a couple of years. I can see the callus wound, the callus healing there around the base of the stub, but it'll never cover that stub. So what happens? You have a hole in the trunk. when the trunk begins to decay or the limb begins to decay, it becomes hollow. That goes to that. That goes to that. And there you have it. That is all caused by a stub left on a tree when pruning. When you prune a tree, make sure you prune just outside the callus, the growing layer right there. You see the crown where the limb comes out of the trunk, right outside that little growth area. And you'll have a healthy wound. They'll close over in just 2 or 3 years. Make sure it's, actually, Richie, who lives in Serenity, is a enthusiastic proponent of World Naked Gardening Day. And so he was putting some fertilizer in his spreader there. But this is what happened when my neighbor failed to check the settings on his spreader. He spread fertilizer and it only went in one place. It went in stripes up and down his lawn. And Kim was made fun of by all his neighbors who said, Kim, didn't you set your fertilizer spreader properly? He admitted that he had not. But then he made sure that if I show this slide to anybody, I'd always say, well, he did better afterwards. And he set his spreader correctly over the last couple of years. And his landscape looked fine. It wasn't always the way it looked then. One of the things that I failed to do, thinking you have failures, I have failures too. My failure was not to ask my son, why do you need a string trimmer? Why would you need a string trimmer? It's just like May, I think it was Father's Day. But he didn't have a present for his daddy for Father's Day. So what he did was take the string trimmer and type, I love you, Dad, in the lawn. Isn't that sweet? My son, hey, 30 years old, buying a house. One of the other failures of faux pas, I think, is something we don't do enough of, is taking to just look and see if we think they're pretty. I just drove by this house last year and I thought, you know, somebody really took a lot of time to choose these azaleas to plant them. It's not a big house, not a rich person living in this house probably, but they really, really enjoyed themselves planting these azaleas. And they're so pretty, I just had to take a picture of them. Look at the picture, that's pretty native azalea there. Aram has that interesting path that comes out of the middle of it. I think it's just gorgeous. When it froze 3-4 years ago, I got this picture of a camellia bud encased in ice. And this Cubano melon, I think it's a beautiful pattern of this melon too. You got to look at things and appreciate what they look like because it gives you a lot of enjoyment in gardening, just to look at these beautiful things. I got some more slides after this, but I want to remind you that if you want to find me anytime, I retire from the radio, thank goodness, but I do a little clip at 6:35 every Saturday morning and talk to Ashley about what I think is going on in gardens. You can find me in the paper every Thursday. I have a column in the newspaper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. As Alan mentioned a while ago, the Georgia Gardener email, look for Facebook, the Georgia Gardener. And you can look at my website, walterreeves.com. I've got 11,000 articles on there now, Alan. So if I got 11,000 articles, you got to think there's probably one that has an answer to something you're looking for or anybody else is looking for. Again, if you have questions tonight, you can drop them in the chat box. I'll try to answer them right here while you wait. Also, it was nice to talk about my books. Here's the 3 that I have now. The other one, the 501 questions and answers, I'll give it out. They don't reprint it. These 3 are the ones that I have. All I would say, Georgia, Georgia, Georgia. Getting started, month by month guide, and the fruit and vegetable book as well. In the introduction a while ago, Alan said that I was a rural guy. I grew up in Fayette County. Well, I did. I want to show you some pictures of me when I was a little bit younger, a few years younger, when my hair went all gray like it is now. My mother, she was a real gardener. She loved being outside. She was my grandmother. My father's mother loved being outside and gardening. And I owe a lot of my gardening knowledge to my mother, my grandmother, and my dislike for gardening in the hot sun because of my father. It made me do that. Here's me on my mother's lap when I was, barely 6 months old, probably, on her lap. When my mother got out of the wax, World War II, she bought herself a tractor. She lived in Fayette County, so she wanted to farm. And so she bought herself a little out-of-salvage tractor, which she used. You see her right there, harrowing out in the field in front of the house. My daddy occasionally got permission to use her tractor. And so it was my dad, the same tractor, but he's using it now to break up some fields there in Inman. I've always loved to read. This picture sort of shows me reading to my younger brother, Robert, but the things around it are so interesting to me now looking back. Old Ringer washing machine in the upper right, upper left corner, I mean. Yeah, I'm sitting on the potty, by the way. That's why my underpants are sitting there down around my knees. The screen door behind me, and behind that, the cattle lilies. Boy, the cattle lilies grew great out there because all the water from the Ringer washer went out to the cattle lilies outside this back door. And that's why the kind of blooms are so pretty, so big and bright and red. You can see that I do the red when I was working on the farm. Went to gather eggs, but I had my Hardy Boys mystery book in my hand to read. And if you notice the shoes that I'm wearing, I don't see any. I've just been to the chicken house gathering eggs. As I said, manure was a part of life in the country, and we had a lot of it on ourselves. This is my brother and I getting a bath. We did not have indoor plumbing when I was a kid. At an outhouse, when we take a bath, we had a galvanized tub that we took a bath in. My mother washing the manure off of us. And this is the night we got indoor plumbing. This is all 5 Reeves killing, and it's not a frown amongst them. We're all happy, happy, happy. We've got a bathtub we take baths in. None of that dumb tub anymore. This is great. This is an opportunity I had a couple of years ago to go to Holland and see all the tulips in Holland. And this is me just sitting out in the tulips, enjoy myself, enjoy the beauty of gardening. That's about all I have tonight. Failures, faux pas, things that I've seen around. I'd love to answer questions. If you have questions, I'm not sure how to find the questions, or Alan maybe is going to read them out to me. And I'll be happy to try to answer some of them. If you give me the easy ones, I'll try to answer them. Alan, what you got?
I have the questions for you, Walter. We already have one. And if any others want to put a question in chat, please do so and we'll read them out. So here's your first question of the night. My new home has big hydrangeas in the backyard. Never pruned them before. At this time of the year, any suggestions?
The first suggestion is to figure out which hydrangea you have. If they're big, like 10 feet tall, or something in that range, they're probably a panicle hydrangea. And panicle hydrangeas can be pruned in winter just fine. There's no reason not to. On the other hand, as big as is 4 feet tall or 5 feet tall, one of the ones that blooms pink and blue, common big leaf hydrangea, but they can't be pruned now, because if you do, you'll cut off the bloom buds that's at the tip of the branches. The first thing to do is find out which hydrangea you have. And for you tonight, I have a special. If you go to walterreeves.com, type in hydrangea, there'll be a whole bunch of articles that come down, but one of them is the one that says hydrangea identification and pruning. It's a booklet written by a master gardener in Cobb County 7 years ago now. I thought it was so good, I just posted it on my website so everybody else can read it too. That's how you can tell what kind of hydrangea you have and when's the right time to prune. Because again, some you can prune in the summer, some you can't prune in the winter. You got to know what you have before you start pruning. What we got, Jerry?
Yep, I'm looking for an email that was sent to us earlier, and Karen, I'm having a hard time finding it. All right, anyone else have questions?
It can be a question about anything, by the way. It doesn't have to be about some of the things that I showed tonight.
Yep. So I'm waiting to see if anyone else has any questions. You can put them in chat, folks, and we will read them out. Any suggestions on using fish emulsion in my gardens?
Do you have dogs? Dogs love to roll in fish emulsion. So if you use it, either bury it or use it very lightly diluted so it doesn't smell bad, because if the dog smells it, the dog will want to come find out what it is, and they think it smells just great. On the other hand, it's a great fertilizer. It's the question about how good of a fertilizer is it. It's a great fertilizer, organic, of course. And as we saw on Saturday Night Live many years ago, you can put a fish in a blender and make your own fish emulsion if you want to. That'd be a good Vitamix blender, but you can put a fish in a Vitamix blender and it will make a fish emulsion you can use for fertilizer. I have a friend who did that. Okay. It worked great.
Okay. And to go along with this, same person asked, what about blood meal in the garden? Heard it was slow releasing.
It is. Both of them are slow release, and that's fine. That's good for plants. They like slow release fertilizers. Same caution about dogs. Love that blood meal. Same caution if you have milorganite. Everybody, I think, knows what milorganite is. I'm sure Mike has it over at Country Gardens. Milorganite is a fertilizer made from the sewage system in Milwaukee. Milorganite stands for Milwaukee Organic Nitrogen.
Right.
And that Milwaukee Organic Nitrogen, Milorganite, is also very effective for dogs, also very slow release fertilizer, also good for your plants. I love it. I love blood meal. I love fish emulsion. All of them do great in the garden.
Okay. Here's one from email. Do you have any tips for pruning Globe Cryptomeria? And please forgive if I mispronounced it. To keep the remaining foliage near where the trimming took place from turning brown. Is it a timing issue for the pruning? So obviously they pruned and it turned brown. So, yep, what did they not do right, I guess is the question.
It's a timing issue, I think, Jerry. The best time to prune Cryptomeria and most evergreens is going to be in the spring, right after it's turned warm. So for me, it would be at 1st of April sometime. If you do it right after it turns warm, nothing around it will turn brown. If the fine little sprouts will come out around it. If you do the pruning in the summer or in the winter, early winter particularly, the foliage on the Cryptomeria turns brown and doesn't look good at all. So timing, I think, is the key. Prune the Cryptomerias and pines. Let's see what else to do. Pine, juniper, Cryptomeria, all the needle evergreens. The time to prune them is in early April when it's just turning warm, when it's just enough oomph to get the growth cycle started.
Okay.
Did you see the one? Did you see the one about the zoysia?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Oh, I got to get to it. Will zoysia grow under oak trees with high limbs? If not, what do you recommend for lawn areas that have lots of shade?
It probably will grow under an oak with high limbs. I'm glad you said high limbs. If it was an oak with low limbs, lower than 10 feet, let's say, it'd be too shady underneath there. Zoysia is somewhat shade tolerant, but it would not grow in a place like under a dogwood where it's real shady. Zoysia would not grow underneath a magnolia, obviously. And the other grass that I think is a real contender these days is Bermuda grass, but a particular kind of Bermuda grass. The Bermuda grass, Tiff Tuff, T-I-F-T-U-F, Tiff Tuff, Bermuda grass, is almost as shade tolerant as zoysia is. It recovers from damage much faster than zoysia does.
Oh.
It's new, it's expensive, I grant you that. But Tiff Tuff is a remarkable new Bermuda grass. It was developed by Tifton, by the researchers down there, and it's just great grass. I hope those of you who watched the Super Bowl the other night realized that was Tifton 419, Tiff Green 419 Bermuda grass developed again at Tifton, Georgia. If you watched the Super Bowl, you were watching the grass down there was grown in Georgia and was developed in Georgia too.
All right. So they separated a bird of paradise, but they still aren't blooming. Suggestions.
Go back in time to the day before you separated it. Bird of paradise loves being compact, being crowded in the root system. That stimulates the blooming cycle to start. And this is true with several other tropical plants. They like to be crowded for some reason I don't really understand. But if it's been divided, you can't go back in time, I guess. So put it in the pot, light fertilizer. I love putting them outside in the summertime. Tropical plants love being outside in the summertime in a place that gets bright shade, not sunshine, but bright shade. Underneath my cherry tree in the backyard is a perfect place. I put my Christmas cactus out there. I put a lemon tree, my Meyer lemon tree, and it'd be a great place if I had one to put a bird of paradise too. Bright shade is great for a tropical plant to keep indoors during the wintertime. And so if you find that place in your landscape, put it out there. As bird of paradise, for it to get crowded again, and then it'll bloom, I hope. I think it will.
Okay. So my fig trees have gotten very tall. Advice on how to prune, please.
This is a good time to do it. The green figs will come on new growth at the base of the new growth. And if you prune in the wintertime, you'll have a lot of good new growth at the ends of the branches that you leave. The flower limbs on the fig basically feed the birds. You know that if it's more than 6 or 8 feet high, the birds get all the rest of it higher than that. So for me, I prune mine every couple of years, I guess, and I'm mostly trying to keep it in short enough so I can reach the figs pretty easily. And if you prune back to about this much stub, on the fig. I said earlier in the presentation, don't leave stubs, but fig is an exception. You want a little stub there, and the stub will have new growth coming out in all directions. The new growth is where you'll have the figs produced, and that'll give you the figs to eat in the summertime.
Oh.
So prune now, emphasize horizontal growth. That's what you want.
Okay. So a question about a reference list that lists length of bloom time for various varieties of crepe myrtles.
Ooh. I got it. Let me think here. McKinney is the name of the town. There's a place in Texas called McKinney, and they have a garden that has every variety of cultivar of crepe myrtle around. They have probably 100 different varieties there. And I'll bet you that the McKinney Gardens has a length of bloom reference or something like that. Also think that the University of Georgia has a thing on crepe myrtles as well. So the UGA online publication thing might have that. Ask Karen if she can find that for you. But crepe myrtles bloom in midsummer usually, and then some of them will rebloom 2 or 3 times as well. Some just bloom one time, and that's all. So it's important, I guess, to know how long they bloom. And the McKinney, Texas people, as well as the extension people in Georgia, are probably the only people I know that would have that kind of information.
Right. Here's a good Georgia question.
There.
How would you recommend I amend orange compacted clay that I want to plant perennials like coneflower in?
You need some magic foo-foo dust. And magic foo-foo dust is organic matter.
Mm-hmm.
Organic matter, of course, is anything that used to be a plant that got digested by a chicken or a horse or a cow or a mushroom, or just piled up and let it compost. So organic matter is the magic foo-foo dust that you'll add to hard, red, compacted clay over at Country Gardens. As a matter of fact, Mike has, I know, what was it called? Composted manure. Has composted manure. Has composted pine chips as well. That soil cube stuff, Deborah, that y'all are going to sell for the fundraiser. Boy, is that good. It is super duper soil. You can add it about 50-50 or whatever ratio you think makes the soil look nice and soft. That is great stuff. It is a composted organic matter. And Cube 3 and Soil 3 people over there do a great job for it. So that would be one source. The manures and things like that. Or you could use manure from your chicken if you got chickens or got goats or horses. You use that manure too. But organic matter is what you do, but you add to the soil to make it productive, to loosen up the clay.
Right. Okay. This is a long one. I brewed compost tea last summer with aeration for 12 to 18 hours and used it on my vegetable garden. Couldn't tell any difference for all the work. Your thoughts?
Yep.
Yep.
That's my answer. Yep.
Yep.
Compost tea is promoted heavily by some folks, but those of us who've tried it are like, what? What's all the fuss about? My mother, for that matter, my mother used to make compost tea, or if you would tell me to make compost tea, we had burlap sacks, and I would go out in the pasture and collect cow manure and put 2 or 3 big patties in the burlap sack, and you would put it into a pot that she had, a great big cast iron pot, and let it brew there for 2 or 3 days, I guess, and then take out the compost tea and put it on her roses. Didn't seem to make that much difference to me. It was stinky too.
Yeah.
And the aeration and all that stuff, I can't say that really is going to make a big difference either. So save you time. There are other things you can do more profitably in the garden than making compost tea.
All right. I'm not going to say this word right. I just know it. I'm trying. I'm getting ready. But I have a couple of emerald green arborvitaes, V-I-T-A-E, that have some thinning at the base. Any suggestions on cause and remedy?
Always make sure I had a couple of pictures earlier with the arborvitae that browned out. The lady that planted so many of them and didn't water them correctly. Arborvitae is a great plant if it establishes a great root system. And the only way you get them to have a good root system is with a young, watered right on top of the root ball, right on top of the root ball. So the root ball always is moist and the roots will gradually grow outward. Once it gets a good root ball established, it will be perfectly fine to live 20, 50 years out there. But the key is to make sure that it doesn't get dried out. Even though it didn't say how long it's been since I planted them, but it's common for them to not be watered properly if it's dry out and die. So hopefully, if you go and water them, it'll get the root system hydrated again. But keep in mind, that's always an Achilles heel, if you will, for arborvitae.
Okay. Any tips on transplanting established rose bushes? Need to move 3 when it gets warmer, but don't want to damage the plant.
What do you mean when it gets warmer? Now's a great time when it's cold. Yeah, get as many roots as you can. Don't worry about the size of the root ball. Go out, a foot or 2 or 3 maybe from the root, from the rose plant. If you have a spading fork or a pitchfork, those are great tools for those. You can just go underneath and lift up the roots without hurting them like you would with a shovel. Just try to get as many roots as you possibly can. And even if you don't get much soil at all, that's fine. You're going to take them over to a new place, put them in the ground, they'll be fine. Water them, of course, and they'll barely know they've been moved. But if you use a shovel and go right close to the trunk, just 6 inches, 8 inches from the trunk, and try to go down, you'll hurt a lot of the roots, you'll sever a lot of the roots, and the rose will not be happy. The more roots you can bring, the better off you'll be.
There's a question from Dorothy Dowell.
Yeah, I left that one because it's long.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready to do it now. Okay. So I read that seed falling from bird feeders changes the soil makeup. I switched from black oil sunflower to shelled sunflower seed and switched out the soil underneath the feeder, but the shelled sunflower seed and also the Niger seed fall on the ground. What do they do to the soil? And besides moving the plants, which I cannot do because I already have every space filled, what can I do so plants will grow underneath the feeders?
I think it's a myth that sunflower seed are allelopathic. You know the word allelopathic, which means it fights other plants and keeps them growing. Like walnuts are said to fight other plants growing underneath them too. The thing that I think happens underneath the bird feeders with the sunflower seeds is simply that birds and squirrels and chipmunks and rats and everybody else, they're feeding on anything that fall off and go to the ground. And I think they do as much compacting of the soil as that's what's caused it to be nothing to grow underneath. There's more compaction from the critters than is from any allelopathic characteristics of the seed. So what do? Put bricks. That's what I did. I ended up putting a layer of bricks about 4 feet wide, 4 feet high, 4 feet in both directions. And when the sunflower seeds build up on it, I sweep them off into my big dustpan and put them in the trash. Because nothing will grow underneath there from the trash, I guess, from the critters there.
Okay. I have 2 large rose bushes that I would like to separate. How do I do this?
Again, try to get as many roots as you can. This is again, you go underneath, try to get as many roots as you can, and you'll find that you can gradually pull the roots apart from each other and transplant them.
Okay. A movement question. Can I move a Celeste fig now? C-E-L-E-S-T-E fig?
Yeah.
Celeste?
The Celeste, figs are pretty easy to move, but I don't think I would try moving one bigger than, say, 6 feet, 5 feet maybe. So don't try to move some great, enormous one. The one beside my house here is 20 feet wide and probably 10 or 15 feet high. It belongs to my neighbor. Figs too. It depends on the size. If it's 5 or 6 feet high, yeah, you can probably move it. If it's more than that, I wouldn't try. It's going to be too much stress on it when those big leaves are trying to get water during the summertime. The roots have been served by the moving process. That's going to put a lot of stress on the fig.
Okay. That appears, unless one just popped in. No, oh no, wait a minute. One just came up. Do Maltese cross flowers do well here? Are they invasive?
What is Maltese cross? I have no idea what that plant is.
Maltese, Maltese cross flowers.
There's a clover that, triangular leaf clover that, that's the only one I can think of. It's a Maltese cross. I don't think that's what they're talking about. I don't know. Tell them to email me at my website. And
yeah, I'll ask her to, if she's listening, would you give me more information on the Maltese cross flowers, please? And while she's doing that, anything special on moving a small magnolia tree? Best time to transplant. Assume, like other plants, dig up as much of the roots as possible.
Yeah, same thing. Roots. The magnolias and evergreen plants that have leaves, whether it's magnolia, gardenia, azalea to a certain extent, are still losing moisture during the summer when it's hot after they've been transplanted. And so if you don't take many roots with them, then they dry out. I could transplant a magnolia that was 5 feet tall, I think, pretty easily and survive pretty well. I wouldn't get one bigger than that. 5 feet, sort of my cutoff height for things that I try to move in the wintertime.
All right. She's not, I don't know if she's typing or not about the Maltese flower. Wait a minute, here we go. The Maltese cross flower, wait a minute, here we go. How to grow and care for Maltese cross plants. There's a website. The Maltese cross flower structure resembles this, the common firefighter symbol. According to tradition, it was the, oh, anyway, all right.
Welton, yeah.
I'm reading what she's got here. It is okay.
We might.
Yeah, it's a gardenia, is what it is.
Gardenia. Maltese cross gardenia. How about that?
Like it's Lychnis, lichenous.
Like this.
Chalcedonica. Chalcedonica, gardenia is what it is.
Let's email that to me directly. GeorgiaGardner@yahoo.com is my gardening email. So send that to me that way. GeorgiaGardner@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And I'll do a little more research. I really don't know.
Karen, can you get that, please, while I read this next one? Oh, it's also known as the Jerusalem cross, not a gardenia, it says. But even though...
Still doesn't ring any bells what it is, no.
All right. Chalcedonia. I don't know. It's from Melinda Park. Right. If I have a... Whoa. Wow. If I have a native Echinacea, Echinacea.
Echinacea.
Huh?
Echinacea.
Yeah, okay. I'm getting close. And a powwow one of the same kind in the garden. If I harvest the powwow seeds, will they come true?
I doubt it, because a lot of echinaceas now have been hybridized. They're ones that, their parents were bred to produce a certain color, a certain flower shape and size and all that. And so the seeds may sprout, yes. Will they come true? Doubtful, unless it's one that's an heirloom echinacea that, how the seeds are the same every generation. So I doubt we'll try to see. I mean, that's what we do. We try to see. The gardeners, we got all the faith in the world that something will happen. So I would say try it and let's find out.
Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to copy this. This information to put in your email for you. Paste. Got it. All right. Let's go back. I think there's another question. What do we have here?
I think it's just...
Nope, that's it. I don't see any more questions.
It's 8 o'clock anyway. It's time to go to bed or dinner or something. So again, if you have other questions, you can email me directly at georgiagardner@yahoo.com. You can go to my website if you want to search first to see if I've written anything about it before. The georgiagardner@yahoo.com be a good place to start.
Okay. All right.
All right. It's been fun. Jerry, Deborah, Alan, it's been fun. I really enjoyed this. This is great.
We've enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to you coming back with us again.
I look forward to it as well. And in person next time. Let's try to be in person.
Absolutely.
I got one of my shots, got another shot next week, and I'll be vaccinated. Vaccinated, safe to be around people. So.
All right. So we look forward to next month. We appreciated everyone being with us tonight. We look forward to you being with us the second Tuesday of March when we have Mike Cunningham helping us getting our spring gardening ready. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you later. Good gardening to all.
Thank you.